You're listening to Puma Podcast.
It's the mindset na you're getting a defective dog or a damaged dog by adopting because they're like secondhand dogs na. They're the dogs that parang came from somebody else and nobody liked them or something, or they must have some defect, whether behaviorally. So yun yung number one misconception.
Hi, I'm Tatiana Maligro from a podcast, and you're listening to Teka Teka. In this episode, we ask, why can't adoption solve animal overpopulation? Ana Cabrera, president of the Philippine Animal Welfare Society, started rescuing cats and dogs from the streets of Manila when
We
she
were
was
partners,
little.
my sister and I. And then my dad also tried to not really rescue a lot of animals, but they were just in very bad situations in Sampaloc. If you've ever been in Sampaloc, it's really bad for the cats especially. So even if my dad also tried to help himself from rescuing too many, we ended up with like 20 plus cats at any given time.
Ana helped animal rights advocate Nita Hontiveros Lichuaco in her campaign for an animal welfare law in the Philippines. The law was eventually passed in 1998. The animal welfare law also regulated the sale, transport, and handling of animals to ensure that they're cared for properly.
Did you know that also prior to close scrutiny of the city pounds now, we've been informed that there was no need for euthanasia drug for the city pound. You know why? Because a lot of people were adopting them, and they were adopting them to the manginginoms, the one who would they're looking for pulutan, and that was how we got rid of the stray dogs in the Philippines prior to the Animal Welfare Act.
The landmark law also criminalizes acts of animal cruelty and torture in the country. It was eventually amended in 2013 to raise the fines and imprisonment times for those found guilty of neglecting or abusing animals. But despite current laws protecting animals in the Philippines, neglecting pets is still a common practice in the country. PAWS estimates that around 12 million stray cats and dogs roamed our streets in 2019. This doesn't only pose a risk to the animals' well being, but to humans as well.
Kasi parang these are the dogs that people are just letting out on the street kasi ayoko na siyang alagaan, ay mahal na, ay may sakit na, so just let them go there. So kinukuha sila because of public health reasons. We can't have dogs running around and then pag may nakagat sila, who will be responsible for the shots, di ba? And if they're reproducing uncontrollably, they would eventually become traffic problems or cause vehicular accidents.
If an animal is not spayed or neutered, they may also reproduce uncontrollably on the streets. This only perpetuates the Philippines' animal overpopulation problem. Too many animals on the street means a higher risk of being bitten by an animal unvaccinated for rabies, straining healthcare facilities for both humans and animals.
Now, before you say, oh, you're for breeding or not for breeding, you go to a city pound. And then you see how bad, that these animals are just going to be euthanized because they were born, just for the very sad reason that they were born. And there are not enough homes for them all. We have to face the fact na, yeah, we have kind people, we have compassionate people, but not all of them can take in a dog.
A 2021 study by the iPrice Group found that Filipinos are the most interested in owning a pet compared to our Southeast Asian peers. Another study by Rakuten found that 2/3 of Filipino households have a dog, while 40% have cats. Despite Filipinos' great affinity for our furry friends, why is it so hard for our strays to find a loving home? More on that after a short break. Part of the problem lies in shopping for dogs and cats that have unique breeds or may dugo, instead of adopting strays in need of a home. Here's PAWS President Ana Cabrera.
As Pinoys, we have something like colonial mentality. I don't know if it extends to the pets, but we at POS noticed this, and that was why we were the ones who came up with the term Aspin or Asong Pinoy. Kasi we really felt bad that if it was a native dog, it's Askal. And if it's like a native cat, it's Puskal. And I said, what's that? Pusang kalye. Literally, cat in the street. And then asong kalye, dog in the street. And I say, oh, pag ganon, dapat nasa kalye na. Pero if it's Shih Tzu, they deserve beds. And poodles and the huskies, they deserve to be indoors. Parang all dogs deserve to be in homes. Sharing the homes with their owners. Not there na parang semi-owned and semi-stray.
We often think of shopping for a pet as the easiest way to get our forever companion. Some of us walk into a pet shop, find a cat or dog that we might find cute, and just pay for it. Online platforms such as Facebook Marketplace also offer Persian kittens or Shih Tzu puppies for as little as 2,000 pesos. But animal advocates warn that shopping for a pet doesn't just deny strays an opportunity to live in a loving home. It also deteriorates the health of the dogs and
Parents,
cats who are bred for
Parang,
profit.
but yeah, like their biological functions compel them to mate. But I'm like, they don't want to have kids in the same way people want to have kids. And then we're like, oh, I want to start a family. Animals aren't like that. So, and again, in the wider context of animal overpopulation, it is better for us to spay and neuter them than to let them either willingly breed them or to let them breed amongst themselves because there isn't enough to go around like for them to be able to properly care for themselves or for us to care for them.
That's Helena Barakel, a foster mom. Since starting Liwai's free companions during the pandemic, Helena's rehomed at least 30 puspins. We often forget that the cute furry faces we see in pet shops and Facebook Marketplace postings often come from parents who are kept around by their owners just for money. Helena and Anna believe that looking at animals as merchandise is exactly what perpetuates the cycle of overbreeding.
But I think part of the problem talaga when people choose to purchase a dog or to patronize a breeder, whatever, or even to breed their own pets with breed at home, is that they're making these decisions in a vacuum. Or they think they are. They think that this choice doesn't really affect anybody else or affect this wider context of animal overpopulation, of overbreeding and animal abuse even that happens. When we buy into these narratives of like, not just literally buy animals, but when we buy into these narratives of like an animal with a breed is superior, like is better than a mixed breed, a mutt, an aspen, a puspin, we're harming them. Not just the aspens or puspins who are looking for homes, but for the animals who are being bred, because I I am staunchly against breeding companion animals for profit.
And the breeding happens because animals are treated or looked at as merchandise. They're basically merchandise. I mean, you can say that's a breeder, you care for your animal, but ultimately, at the end of the day, you're just looking at them at merchandise. You're taking care of their health because you don't want any losses. No, we do know the horror stories of if they're not up to par. Halimbawa, there's defect in the dog, they would drown them in a pail of water because it doesn't make good business sense na to keep some of them. But now they're like passing off the defective dogs as adoption discount.
Anna says those who buy their cats and dogs from sellers often think they're getting bang for their buck by receiving perfect animals. Those with a good pedigree, already vaccinated and dewormed by their sellers. But these days, Anna says crucial documents such as vaccination records and certificates of origin are already being forged by puppy and kitty mills.
I would like to point out that you are on equal footing or even more at a disadvantage with buying dogs. Because buying dogs, when you buy dogs online, there's parang they will pass them off as puppies na ganito yung breed when they're actually not, yung fake bakunas when they're actually not. Sometimes may PCCI papers daw, but they're fake PCCI papers. They said, oh, the dogs daw have bakuna or vaccinations against distemper, but they got distemper or parvo dogs. So these aren't, and when I had the vet check the rabies vaccination card or the vaccination card itself, they said, I don't know, walang PTR number to. definitely this isn't a vet, and then walang lot number yung bakuna. So these are just things na they're saying na bakunado, but they're not. It's a health risk, ah. And then, if tinamaan ng distemper or parvo yung dog mo, ang laki ng gasto sa'yo. You know how much, like if you have a dog na with parvo, distemper dogs are not even allowed in most veterinary clinics. They don't allow confinements. And super contagious to. So if you have other dogs and tinamaan ng isang dog mo with distemper, you're putting all of your dogs at risk, and you're going to be spending at the very minimum 1,000 a day for either confinement and your dextrose and everything that needs to go to save the life of that pet.
And what happens when a pet owner can't handle the rising vet bills? Sometimes the dogs are simply let go or left to fend for themselves.
I'm telling you, 90% of the time, the reason why dogs are out on the street is not because of their fault, or I can even say 100% of the time. It's because of the humans that they ended up with, that they just didn't deserve dogs because they didn't want to be bothered with training the dog or spending just a little bit of time with the dogs. That's why it developed behavior problems.
The Senate is currently hearing a bill which seeks to amend the Animal Welfare Act. The bill aims to create an animal welfare bureau to strengthen standards for breeding and trading animals. Animal rights advocates hope that this bill will also tighten requirements for accredited breeders.
If you're not going to be an accredited breeder, you just want it as a pet, then that pet should be fixed. So, isa yan sa mga gusto namin. So, there are accredited breeders, and they're the ones that only allowed to breed. And the people who are buying pets must have fixed or sterilized pet. And if there are problems, because their Labrador retrievers are big dogs, so they need to have developed bones. They cannot be spayed or neutered at a very young age because parang hindi pa fully developed. So once we reach that age, they should be spayed or neutered, and they should be kept from mating other dogs up until they get fixed. That's part of the agreement. So we want that into legislation.
Aside from cracking down on unethical animal breeders, a House lawmaker also proposes giving tax incentives to those who adopt animals to encourage Filipinos to adopt instead of shop. At the end of the day, adopting or rescuing an Aspin or Puspin instead of shopping for a specific breed will take one less animal off the streets. While adopting alone will not solve the problem of overpopulation and overbreeding in the Philippines, advocates like Helena believe that adoption and continued TNR or trap neuter release will eventually get us to a point where fur fosters like her are no longer needed.
The goal of rescue is to one day no longer have to rescue. So you're kind of working with that super idealistic kind of goal in mind. That one day that I won't have to do this because there won't be any more of them that need me. I've been thinking to myself na, if we ever get to that ideal world where there are no animals living on the street, because there is no animal overpopulation or animal cruelty, and in that world, let's say the only way for me to have a pet would be to breed, to buy one. I probably wouldn't want a cat or a dog if the only way for me to get one was to breed it, because I'm just like, it's not for them. It would be for me, I'm at that point in my life now. I'm like, sana we get there in my lifetime.
And that was today's episode of Teka Teka. If you're thinking about getting a pet, we hope that this episode encouraged you to find your forever partner through adoption. And if you know someone who's looking to get a pet, it would also be great if you shared this episode with them. Again, I'm Tatiana Maligro. This episode was edited by Pidoy Blanco. Our Teka Teka executive producer is Jill Caro, and our editor-in-chief is Carl Javier. And of course, don't forget to follow Teka Teka and Puma Podcast on your favorite podcast app or on YouTube. Thanks for listening.